This is our last week and a half in Texas, and we are traveling from San Antonio to El Paso with 4 different stops in between. This week we visit San Angelo, Texas, the Permian Basin Petroleum Museum in Midland, Texas, Monahans Sandhills in Monahans, Texas, and the Lichen Dairy in San Elizario, Texas, right outside El Paso. We did a little 3-night stay at San Angelo State Park, located where the O.C. Fisher Reservoir and the Concho River converge. This is a great big huge park, and from the time we checked in the south entrance, we had to drive about 4 miles to the north entrance. We were a little skeptical when they gave us a padlock code for the gate at the north entrance. When we got to the north entrance, one of us had to get out, undo the padlock, open the gate, pull the camper and truck through, close the gate, and redo the padlock. Seemed a little sketchy at the time, but ended up being wonderful. The north entrance is Eagle Creek Campground, which had, during the time we were there, a total of 4 campers, I believe. We were there for 3 days, and it was fantastic. Because of the gated area, we knew nobody else was going to be in there, and it was big, huge, wide open area. The dog could run around. We relaxed. We wish we stayed there for 2 weeks. It was great. Great area to walk. And like I say, it felt like we had the whole place to ourselves. It was so much fun. My annoying wife is getting getting stuff and food out of the fridge as I'm trying to record a video. So I'm going to record this segment anyway. And I might use it at some point, and I might not. I wish she would move her booty, though. Across from the main road of the San Angelo Park is a huge solar farm, or I thought it was a huge solar farm. It pales in comparison to the Concho Valley solar farm a little bit south of here, which is 447,000 solar panels and covers 700 acres. San Angelo had everything we needed and has another great little downtown area. And they had some kind of festival going on where some of the streets and stuff were blocked and lots of people. And so it's always neat to see people converging and doing fun things together as a community. What I couldn't figure out is why I kept seeing painted concrete or porcelain or whatever they were, sheep everywhere. This is why. Turns out San Angelo, Texas is the wool and mohair capital of the world. Who knew? Our next stop was a quick overnight stop, and one we were both really looking forward to because we knew nothing about petroleum. And in Midland, Texas is the Permian Basin Petroleum Museum, which leads us, of course, to this week's nerd segment. And it's a heavy one for me. I never took geology. This was hard. The Permian Basin is the largest petroleum producing basin in the United States. It covers 86,000 square miles. Most of it is here in Texas, but some of it spills over into New Mexico. The Permian Basin is responsible for about 50% of the U.S.'s oil production a year. About 6 million barrels of oil a day are pumped out of here. Okay, I mentioned the geology, so I'm going to do my best here. Here we go. The Permian Basin is named after the time period called the Permian Age. The Permian Age was from about 299 million to 251 million years ago. So it was about a 50 million year period of time. The Permian Age was involved a lot of tectonic movement, and that's when the supercontinent, the Pangaea, was formed. It's estimated that about 95% of Earth's marine species were eliminated during that time. During this several million year period, much of the area was covered in reefs, and all of the area was covered with water. Toward the end of the Permian era, the Pangaea began to break up. This limited the area that we now call the Permian Basin's access to seawater. This led to an increase in salinity of the water in the area. The higher salinity, accompanied with the higher temperature that the Earth was encountering, and temperatures that the Earth was encountering during that period, ended up killing all of the reefs. Oil and natural gas, or what we call fossil fuels, are created from the remains of ancient organisms, many of those marine life. As the organisms died and were buried beneath sediment over a period of millions of years, the organisms become oil and natural gas. Deepwater shale and carbonate reefs created hydrocarbon reservoirs that trapped the oil and gas in pockets. First oil well in this area was drilled in 1920 and was about 450 feet deep. The first commercial oil well was put in 1923, and at that point it was about 2,500 feet deep. Until the late 1920s, all of the oil wells in this area were below about 4,500 feet. As drilling technology improved and increased, some of that tended to change. Today, most wells in the area are 7,000 to 10,000 feet deep. Majority of the oil drilling now is actually horizontal or uses fracking, allowing them to target specific reservoirs. The deepest wells on the west side of the basin now are as deep as 18,000 feet deep or even deeper. This wonderful museum covers not only drilling and fracking history and the technology involved in that, but it also covers transportation and even future energy needs and concerns. It's absolutely a wonderful museum and was a plethora of new knowledge. I learned so much, I can't even get into all of it, and I can't even understand all of it, to be honest with you. But oil is a big, big deal here in Midland, Texas. Outside of the museum contained just as many exhibits, if not more, than inside the museum, and was a very detailed history of well pumping, as well as oil well drilling, all the way up to modern current wells. Very, very interesting place. A great place to stop. Hidden gem for sure. Okay, we have received on our phones a dust warning for weather. It was like a weather alert, but it was for high dust. And look what's behind me coming up this way. It's really hard to get a picture of it like this, but look at this. That must be dust headed this way. I guess we'll figure it out. Now, many of you know I am an avid race car nerd. And what I did not know is that the Permian Basin, I can't believe I didn't know this, but the Permian Basin Petroleum Museum also houses Jim Hall's Chaparral cars that were so famous. Chaparral were road racing cars. Those cars won, for example, the 1965 12 Hours of Sebring with Jim Hall himself driving that car. In 1966, or the famous year of Ford versus Ferrari, the Chaparral beat Ford, Ferrari, Porsche, and everybody else at the Nürburgring with F1 champion Phil Hill behind the wheel. Chaparral even built Johnny Rutherford's 1980 winning Indy 500 car. Now, most of you may remember Johnny Rutherford's 1980 Indy 500 car, the Yellow Submarine, from all those little slot cars, those Tyco slot car tracks that you would get. That was the car that was in the pack. You will all recognize this. Such a cool place. If you're ever in this area, Midland, Texas, you have to stop at the Permian Basin Petroleum Museum. Next up is the Monahans Sand Hills, and we are going to be staying at the Monahans Sand Hills State Park. That's a lot of S's and harder to say than you think it is. The Monahans Sand Hills State Park, another wonderful Texas park, looks completely different than any of the other Texas parks we've been in because it is covered in sand dunes. I felt like I was in Lawrence of Arabia or even in Spaceballs combing the desert at times. Monahans Sand Hills is actually an area that stretches 150 miles north of here and is 22 miles wide. Thousands of years ago, not millions this time, but thousands of years ago, during an extremely dry, arid post-glacial period, tiny bits of the eroded Rocky Mountains had been deposited into streams and rivers. As those streams and rivers dried up, this left a whole bunch of sand. As big winds blew sand across the southwest, the sand began becoming trapped against the Texas high plains. The sands built up into great big active dunes that are still active today, and as I record this video, there is an extremely windy thing going on, and I can actually see sand blowing, and the mountains change every day, every year. They just keep changing. There's a section of road here that is completely covered in sand right now. Tomorrow morning, it won't be. One big thing to do here at the Monahans Sand Hills, they actually rent you saucer sleds, and there are families of people every day up on the hills sledding down. Just like it's snowy. It's not snowy, it's sandy. It's very, very fine, dry sand, so it's very easy to get off of you. It's a neat thing. What a cool place. No idea it even existed. I'm so glad we stopped here. Glad we did a little bit of homework on it. And if you're ever in this area, you gotta stop and see this. Several of the dunes you will see have a lot of vegetation, and those are not going to be dunes that are moving, but the active dunes have very little vegetation, and you can actually watch the sand blowing over the dunes. It is absolutely awesome. Next up, we are doing an overnight trip to San Elizario, Texas, right outside of El Paso, at a place called the Lichen Dairy. They are a dairy that specializes in making cheese. They have a great little restaurant and saloon right there on campus at the dairy. When we arrived, they were very busy. We were super surprised, and I was a little surprised we had room to park, but we managed to figure it out and found a way to get in there. They had a wonderful petting zoo and farm and loads of animals, pony rides, horseback rides, emus. They had peacocks, they had ostriches, and they had these guys, these big old cows, all kinds of different critters. Speaking of critters, here's a little bit of Lilo over the last week. Diana Krall was once again in El Paso, so we decided we'd stop and go see her again. Much to our surprise, she had an entirely different band with her, and it's kind of her classic lineup that she had for her Paris record, with Anthony Wilson, Jeff Hamilton, and John Clayton, and they were absolutely fantastic. We had such a great time. Downtown El Paso is beautiful, beautiful day when we were there. It's just gorgeous. What a really cool town. I would have loved to spend a little bit more time in El Paso, and we're definitely going to stop back by in the future. This concludes this leg of our Texas trip. We have been in Texas for about 2 months. We have not seen anything above Austin. We haven't even seen Austin. So we have a whole bunch of the state still to explore. We're going to catch a little more of it hopefully by the end of the year as we come back through.